Welcome to a new episode of Outside the Panels with your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes.
Welcome everyone to an episode of Outside the Panels. I am your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes. Now, at the time of recording, Christmas has not happened. We are still bathed in the warm glow of hope that someone has listened and got us that really cool Batman figure. If you're watching this after Christmas and you're stuck with a Red Hood figure, well, at least this will cheer you up because we've got a book that's due out in February. Yes, that might seem a way away, but trust me, after Christmas, New Year, you're going to need something to cleanse that palate. What better way then to talk about a kind of alternative history book with some action? Let's get the writers involved. It is Mr. Sam Freeman and Mr.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, and Sam Romesburg. Sam's.
If you just say Sam, someone will answer. It's all good.
Yeah, is that how it works, is it? Cool. Is that how you kind of broke into writing? Someone said Sam and you both went like this. Yep, that's me.
Yeah, us too.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. All right, so we're here to talk about a book that's coming out from Mad Cave. Mad Cave, for those of you who have maybe been living in a cave, an independent book publisher who have absolutely done so well with a diverse cast of books. What was it like, I suppose, because you've worked with other indie publishers as well. How did you get involved with Mad Cave? We'll go Sam F first before we jump onto Sam R.
Honestly, a lot of it was Sam R had another book that did some rounds, and we were pitching something to Aftershock Comics. And
don't say it like that. Why say it? Because they haven't paid the bills out the Aftershock.
They have not paid the bills. No.
They have not paid their bills.
Yeah, and we were working on that, and I think he kind of got in contact initially with Mad Cave, if I remember correctly, and we started working on this other thing, and we finished up the book that was supposed to come out through Aftershock, and this kind of came out at the right time, and
Cool. So Samar, what book was it that you had going on then, that you had previously?
Well, I will say just one note about the Aftershock. They weren't paying the bills or the Sams or anybody.
The Sams, the Pauls, the Peters, the Claudias. Yeah. No one was getting paid.
Nobody was getting it.
Not even the staple guy.
So now we're coming out swinging against them. No, so we were doing that book, and then honestly, a really good thing that came out of that was our relationship with Mike Martz, who was the editor-in-chief there at the time, who is now the editor-in-chief over at Mad Cave. Mm-hmm. So we had pitched the idea. We had pitched this separate idea to Mad Cave a while ago, who had said yes. But at the same time, Aftershock had said yes. And we were kind of like, what should we do? Let's go with the Aftershock one, stupidly, is what we did. And it didn't work out. And then basically everybody, or the people that we spoke to over at Mad Cave, were kind of like, that's okay. If you have anything else, feel free, our door is open. And we were like, well, we do kind of have this other thing that I actually might kind of like better. And we sent it over, and that was this was Hound. And it was cool because we had this idea, I think, in the first place was to do I think it was like a 4 or 5 issue run type deal. And then they were like, let's just make it a graphic novel. Let's just do all one book, 80 pages, just put it all in one. We'll make it nice. And we just kind of said, yeah, sure. Whatever you need us to do, we'll do that 100%. So huge thanks to everyone at Mad Cave and for making that happen, and working with them has been far and away the best experience I've had in comics thus far. They're the best.
For sure.
I'll try not to say that personally, speaking to me, but thanks, cheers. Right.
We've only been in 5 minutes. We got to give some time. So far, you're up there.
Yeah. Fine.
You're up there so far.
We'll bed in, isn't it? Yeah. So working for Aftershock and then going to Mad Cave, that's kind of like going to the USFL and then still having to play for the NFL 2 years later, right?
There you go. We're right back in it.
Yeah. Cool. It worked out well for a whole host of quarterbacks in that league, didn't it? You know, hey ho. So Hound, let's get into this. This is at the start of the show. I said it's kind of like an alternative history. It is based in the past. Who would like to take us forward and tell us what this book's about?
So, Hound is set in World War One. It kind of centers around a young private, 18, 19, 20-year-old who is sent to the front lines to join a group of soldiers who kind of are donning at all times gas masks. They're kind of sent into a heavily gassed area, the gas corridor, and without giving too much away,
no, that's fine.
They're pretty
stuff
pretty
happens.
intense.
Stuff happens.
Yeah.
The like the gas has kind of has like taken a hold of this group in a way that maybe people might not have thought. The gas could take a hold of somebody. Like, it's a pretty heinous thing to use in warfare that has a lot of, you know, unintended side effects to maim and hurt people. And this group that he's lumped in with has been transformed into something different. So like this book really is the exploration of this main character who goes to war, who is afraid to fight this like greater bad, but realizes that the biggest threat to his life is who he's sent to join, and what you know, the people that are the most around him could, you know, kind of threaten him with.
So I mean, he's in World War One, which is a pretty bad situation to start with.
Yeah,
now he's got other stuff going on. The dudes with the gas masks, I imagine they're kind of metaphoric for the idea of the kind of faceless enemy that would exist in a war. Because whilst it seems so, it seems like intimacy. You know what I'm saying? So when you watch what movie was it? Saving Private Ryan. The most horrific part of Saving Private Ryan for me is where the two soldiers are fighting over the knife. Yeah, and the American thinks he's like, yeah, I've got it. And then the German turns the table, and you see the American practically beg for his life. And that's the intimacy of battle, as opposed to the kind of faceless enemy going against the bad guy, as it were. So metaphorically, you're kind of touching the bases there, because privates don't really think about the person they're facing. They're just feeling like, we're told to conquer that hill. Let's go and get that hill, right?
Right. Yeah, there's definitely truth to that. And I think like a step further than that is, once these masks do come off, it's kind of this really abstract way to look at, like, you know, what lies underneath the veil of what, you know, this thing is. You know, a lot of times people come home from war and they're like, these guys are heroes, or these or whatever. And it's like, you don't know what, you know, unheroic and just gruesome and horrible thing that they've done. And there's a lot of that in that. It's like there's we use a lot of this to kind of show, you know, the ugly side of it, and, you know,
the horror
without giving the horror, without giving too much away.
I mean, wars, unless you talk about the Star Wars saga, wars are pretty bad. Right?
We can talk about that if you want to. I'll talk about that for 3 hours. Yeah.
Oh, not another. Oh, good God. Can we agree that 4, 5, and 6 are the best episodes?
They're the best. They're the best. But I will say, I am the Last Jedi super fan.
Really?
I love it. I think it's a masterpiece.
So this is the middle one of the last one, right?
Yeah. Okay. Snoke cut in half, that whole thing. I think it's a masterpiece.
Okay, cool. I think
so many people just turned this off. I'm sorry.
No. Hey, I'm going to stick up for you. I think it's a great film. I think it's The Empire Strikes Back and backwards.
Oh yeah.
Plot scene wise, but you know,
good. It's not the best one. It's not the best one out of everything, but I love it. It's so good.
Empire Strikes Back. Sorry, I had something in my throat there.
It is the best one. Yeah, that one is the best for sure.
Yeah, even if it is just a middle.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something to that, yeah.
Cool. So, Sam F, who is it? Who of you? Which of you has the interest in World War One? Then why stage it in World War One? Is it just because the unknown and the war and the horror that can then metaphorically be transformed into the faceless gas mask goons before the truth reveals, or is it something that you kind of think to yourselves, you know what, it's an interesting field to play in?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think World War One in particular is kind of like just a war of bigger clubs. You know what I mean? Who had the bigger club and who could toss the most, mustard gas. And it was just like, just overly brutal and just, all war's brutal, but it was just overly brutal, and it was just it was like two different teams kind of like pouring salt on slugs,
Yeah.
And it's just like without really realizing what can be done and what will be left in its wake, kind of. I think this is definitely a story of like what is asked of people to do and to become in a war. And I think putting that in the backdrop of World War One, where it is just kind of, the weapons that were used and kind of what people did become in that war through the trench and just through mustard gas is pretty crazy, and it is horrific, and it's like very real world horror.
So when I think about World War One, it's the world that's supposed to stop all wars, right? And then we go and do it again a few years later. Did you guys have to do a ton of research on this to kind of make it accurate to any World War One aficionados out there?
I think a lot of it was mostly just because it is like a pretty isolated story. That is just 100% from the viewpoint of our main character, who's just totally our POV. I think majority of like the research we had to do is just like the locations of things to make sure it was like made the most sense. And I think there was probably a little bit of dialect in there of like how people spoke and like during World War One.
Don't be giving me any dodgy British accents, will you?
No, nothing like that.
Yeah.
None of that.
Hey, by Gov, he seems to have thrown a bomb at us.
None of that.
Yeah, that's exactly. He sounds like John Cleese. That's like we modeled him off of John Cleese.
With my accent, John Cleese? Oh my god. So you're both successful writers in your own right. You both have had some really strong books out. What's it like, sort of then combining the power, as it were, to kind of work together? Because that must be, I don't know. I have some colleagues who I think are pretty damn good at what to do, but I don't know if I could work with them.
Well, so I'll say this: I both of us come from this like music background. So Sam and I met playing in bands a long time ago. We kind of grew up in this like punk rock scene around our towns, and we met that way. And for me, at least, that's kind of, I have never written a book just on my own. So everything that I have under my name has been written with someone else. That I actually met playing music that has an interest in these comics. And I think it's because that's how I'm used to creating a little bit, is, like from that standpoint, everything that I've ever like written up until I tried my hand at comics was me coming to like a band practice or something, being like, hey, like I got a riff, or I got this one idea. What do you guys think? And then building off of it with someone else.
So I imagine that creating music's quite collaborative.
100%, it has to be. Your best stuff is never the one that someone's like, I got the whole thing done. It's always the thing that's like, I need all of you and this. And I think a little bit of this comes from that. I think a little bit of this is probably my own, like not being able to trust myself unless somebody else stamps it. Like that's cool, Yeah. So a little bit of that, but like up until now, whenever I have like an idea, or Sam also, if he has an idea, we're always quick to kind of be like, first things first, what do you think of this? Do you think this is something we could do? Do you think this is something that has legs that we could work on?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a lot of it is that like this, like wanting to do it like collaboratively with, you know, these people that I trust who, you know, have similar interests and things like that. So for me, it's kind of second nature. It's just like, that's how I want to do it. That's how I'm comfortable doing it. Let's just take that band mindset and put it into this. So
it's good. It's a good way of thinking. I never thought of it like that. That's really good analogy. Sam, F.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sam and I have been pitching things and have kind of been writing and working on different things. I mean, I think like the last 3 or 4 years or something like that.
Okay.
And then we were working on the book that was through Executioner's Tag. So there has been a lot of like a history of collaboration just between him and I, and just as other people in general. The Basic Instinct book that I have, that's like the first thing I've ever written solely myself. And it's like it's like two different hats, I think. And I think the Basic Instinct book it was cool, and it was kind of like a there's a lot of things I'm really happy about that I feel like are just like totally my taste and my interest. But I think Sam and I have like a really there's a lot of things that we like that are very succinct, and like what we kind of gravitate towards. And I think Hound is like a really, really good example of that.
Cool. Excellent. Well answered. When we think about how's your writing then develop, because I mean there are writing partnerships that are hugely successful. I always ask this question when I'm dealing with like a kind of dynamic duo. So forgive my naivety with this. Do you find that it's kind of like an organic, holistic approach, or is one of you better at dialogue and the other one better at set pieces? Because I imagine that for me, when I kind of mess around with story ideas, I always have like the great this bit's good and this bit's really good. Now how do I get there?
Right. So no, that's true. We definitely don't. I don't think. I mean, I'll speak for me, but I definitely don't think we kind of sit down saying like, all right, you write all the words for this, or like you take page 2 through 6, I'll do 7 through whatever. Like I think both of us are pretty good at, especially me. Like my thing is, I will, if I'm working on like a part, I'll definitely hit a wall where I'll say like, I think this has enough of me. Like this has enough of my voice. Where do you see this going? Or like, you know, that same thing of kind of like, it's just we're trying to like play catch with this, not it's that kind of thing. And then the thing that I think has worked for us so well is the things that I will kind of get stuck on. I'll be like, I have it up to this point and I'm not sure where it should go. And Sam will be like, oh, this. And it's like, that's exactly what it should have been. And then vice versa. It's just, I think both of us are really good at being like, taking what that person has built up to that point and given their like full creative mind in it. And then it's like, you got another guy like fresh in the bullpen coming in and taking it over and doing your next bit through it. So it's really nice. It is just like playing catch, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, a lot of it too is like, I was going to say like a baton handoff too, or it's like, we're
that's
like,
better.
Yeah.
We just get it. Like I had this one idea. It's not a catch. It's a baton handoff. Perfect.
But it's like where Sam will kind of right up to a certain point, and then I'll jump in, and then vice versa. And I think just like you were saying too, there's some stuff where I'm like, I just like don't get how this is gonna like work. Like not how it's not gonna work, but just like I just don't get how to like make this happen. Yeah. And then he'll like go away for like an hour and be like, oh, I got it. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, it's like I'm an idiot.
Like, not only is that, I think people. I mean, I don't want to speak ill of any writing, but we get focused on what we do, right? We get focused. We get this blink of vision, and it sometimes needs that other person to come along. And there's a lot of really talented writers who will write themselves into a corner, you know. And you think to yourself, you know, I mean, I want to go back to movies. I love the movie Minority Report.
Oh, so good.
Right up until the point the bad guy says, "I look for people who drowned." At which point I'm like, "You idiot! No one said she drowned already." But that's the realizing that, you know what, I'm in a place I need to exit left, warp speed.
100%, 100%. And like I think another thing too that's important in that is that you have to be able to, and this comes from like playing same thing with music and like kind of being able to handle this, is if you do have something and someone's like, I don't know if that's it, to be like, okay, what let's fix it. Like I think we're in a thing where both of us are like, if Sam is ever like, this can be a little better, neither of us are like, what? There's no ego, and it's like, okay, I agree. I think let's make it better. Like it's there is
to write a good comic book.
100%. Like you have to be able to kind of do both things. Be open to everything.
Yeah, I think I get really stuck in like, I'll like write something that I think is really cool, and then I'll like spend more time trying to like justify why it's cool rather than like reading it back and being like, oh wait, it doesn't really work. And I think Sam is really good about being like, yeah, that is cool, but it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't like make sense. And it's like,
it's really cool,
like that meme,
but just not yet. Like, two pages on, it'll be fantastic.
So I will say this. I think this does tie back into what the thing was first. Like what maybe one of you does more than the other. I think my thing is definitely like the broad picture, where it's like, I think this should be the pacing of it. This is the order of operations of how we get to our end goal. And then I think Sam is the best at like coloring it to make it, make the most sense. And it's like, it's like the same thing. You need both of it to make something that you're proud of. And I think that's exactly what this book is.
So, I mean, it's like layers. We talked about music earlier. To me, it's like layers. So if you've got like the guitar line from Sweet Child of Mine, for example, the I suppose the rhythm bit, it's quite, it's all right, it's all right, it's okay. But then you have Slash come in and give it the string bit that really rocks the handle. It's like, whoa, that makes it better.
You need all hands on deck.
Definitely.
That's for sure. Definitely
cool. So I mean, that music thing really works at the analogy. I know writers who edit each other, so they'll write like sections of story, or they'll have like the grand plan, and then they'll write the bits and then they'll give it to each other to edit down to make it from that point of view. I always find that's a little bit, I hate people looking at my stuff, so that's just my day job, never mind what I do for fun. All right, what got you into comics? We'll start Sam F. What got you into comics all those many years ago?
I think it was mostly like, I'm 30, so I was in like the early 2000s. I was, I was still really, really young, and I was really into those like Marvel Legends figures.
Oh, yeah.
That like the first issue comic, or like a pretty notable issue behind that figure. So that was huge for me, and I think it's weird because I think like superheroes and just comic books have just kind of always been in my life. I can't really like determine like what like was the entry point. I think I always just kind of liked that. I wasn't like reading comics like out of the womb or anything, but I was like always just kind of like liked comics.
Around.
And then the Ultimate Spider-Man came out, and that was kind of a huge deal for me when I was a kid. And it was like, it kind of like hit me at like a perfect time. And then like I was reading Wizard magazine kind of like up until the bitter end, like up until like they canceled it. And
that's a blast from the past, Wizard.
Yeah. And so I mean, I think it was like all those things, and then like I don't know, like Spider-Man movie was like huge for me. It couldn't have been a bigger deal for me.
The Tobey Maguire one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Samar, what about yourself?
So kind of the same thing where like that question, whenever I listen to podcasts of other like comics people, like it'll always come up, and it's always so crazy to me whenever people are like, yeah, it was this issue, or it was this book, or this whatever. And I'm like, I can't remember like what I did yesterday. I have no idea when it started. It's the same kind of thing where I guess that the thing I can kind of tie it the most to is that my father, my dad is like an avid comic book fan. Like, and like, so the stuff was always around. Like, as long as I have been alive, like I've known who Spider-Man is and I know who like Wolverine is. I know how they know each other. I kind of knew it. I don't know how I know it, but it's always been kind of like secondhand knowledge. And then, of course, like growing up in the 90s, you watched every show, every cartoon of everything. I watched all of it. I was obsessed with it. I had every action figure, you know. And then, like, I always think I kind of get it, but then, like, I recently had a thing with, I'm pretty sure it was Ultimate Spider-Man 2, where I reread it like 5 years ago to kind of be like I want to read it again. And I remember reading the first thing, and I had this like visceral thing come to me where like I remember my mom reading it to me before I could read. And I was like, how did I have this? I don't know how I had it. I just know that I've seen Mark Bagley's art. I know it. But I will say that I think that the thing that got me back into comics, because I think it is a thing that kind of happens, especially with a lot of people like us who play music and stuff like that. You're into comics. Then you're like, oh man, I think I want to be a rock star, and you kind of fade out of it, and then you kind of come in, you know. And I think the thing that got me back into it is that the singer of my band on one tour had like a Walking Dead compendium, and I was kind of like, what is that? Like I've heard about the show, I've never seen it. Like, you know, I'm used to like Big Two stuff. Like, what is this? You know, and then I started reading it, and then I read Preacher, and I was like, all right, this is the best thing ever. And then it just right back into it. So
it's funny because there's a guy I know who runs a comic book store in Newcastle, which is like one of the big cities near me. And he says there's a correlation between music fans and comic book fans.
Oh, 100%.
So if you're a comic book fan, you'll kind of listen to music on the periphery. But then if you're a music fan, you kind of look at comics on the periphery. There's some sort of like
they're very similar.
It's like a seesaw kind of thing.
Very similar mediums that have a lot of the same mindset and like ethos, I guess, behind them. Because they're both forms of art. It's just different mediums of art, and it's just you have your genres, you have your take. Like, you know, the Venn diagram is almost a circle. It's really really close.
Yeah. I think also it's like, I mean, Sam and I were both in like punk and metal and hardcore and stuff. And I think that comics have just like, are kind of like hand in hand where it's like,
it's just been around.
I mean, like,
they're cool. They're just like cool.
Like,
it's cool. It's cool like a riff. It's cool like a fast, you know, they're awesome.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You're both right. When you get that, comic that blows your mind, it is like hearing that riff that just absolutely captures your heart.
It's the coolest thing ever. That's why it's just this like, it's these two groups of people I think who are just like dedicated to things that are cool. You know what I mean?
Man. I hear you.
And I think too, it's like as you're kind of getting into like punk and hardcore and stuff, it also is kind of like a small like lesson in comics of like Danzig really likes like, you know, he's into like old like EC comics, and then you kind of like, you know what I mean? Like,
Danzig was supposed to play Wolverine in a movie. That's 100% a thing.
And then like also just like old like hardcore and punk flyers all were like comic book panels. So it's like you see those in like magazines or books, and you're like, oh wait, it's like they like Wolverine, you know what I mean? Or like they like Spider-Man.
Cool. Right, time for an advert for one of our other shows. I was kind of thinking where I should go with one of our comic shows, but because you guys are musos as well as comic book fans, I think there's only one place for me to go. I'm really sorry to do this to you because this might not be your cup of tea, but still, check it out. K-Pop Cosmos. There we have it, K-Pop Cosmos, Freeman, Marky Mark, every month dropping the latest views on K-pop, fashion, music, and everything in there. I know for me it looks like Power Rangers, and I'm really sorry.
That was sick. Oh, I'm in. I'm all in. I'm in.
Freya is, I've got to say this, Freya, who co-hosts on our DC show, she is absolutely fantastic. She's such a fan of K-pop. So if you're into K-pop, genuinely go and check her out because she is absolutely brilliant. So there you go. Cool. Enough about Freya. She'll be getting a big head. I won't be able to talk to her on Sunday now. All right, let's have a look at Hound. Here's some sample pages which we can get. You can see these on the pre-order page of Mad Cave, which I'll share in a little bit. How do you guys work? Because it's one thing working in tandem together. How do you manage to then add the third person in a penciler or an artist? Because I imagine it's hard enough for a penciler to kind of listen to one person's set of views. And now you got Sam R saying, well, maybe you do this. And then you got Sam F saying, well, maybe you should do that. How's that work for you guys?
First things first, I before anything want to say that like the artist on this book, Rodrigo Vasquez, is incredible. One of the greatest artists I think I might ever work with. He didn't just pencil, he penciled, he inked and colored the entire book. Every piece of art that you see in this book was him. And whenever you get pages back like this, I think Sam and I both kind of stand on the same page where this is, I personally believe a comic book is more of the artist's book than it is our book. And it's kind of our job to kind of just suggest, I guess, what it's going to look like. And then we get the hell out of the way because I think he understands exactly what needs to be shown. And like a lot of times for me, especially, is whenever I'm like trying to like write out what's happening in like a panel, we're less kind of thinking like, yeah, somebody walks in from the left and in the back we see this or whatever. It's kind of just like a guy walks into a room. You build it. I trust you. Just build it, Okay. So a lot of this thing with him was kind of, not wanting to put him into a box and wanting him to take this wherever he felt like it needed to go. And like we had every page he would send us was just kind of like, no notes. Send it. It's perfect.
So, Sam F, let me ask you this question then, because I agree. I think Sam, I think you understand that. I think for me, the writer is equally as important as the artist, if not better. Mainly because, from my point of view, I can read a good story with bad art, of which this isn't. This is gorgeous. I love the colours on this page, absolutely. So I can read a well-written story with dodgy art. I can't read a dodgy story with great art. I mean, so to me, the kind of the screws a little bit. And I get what you're saying, that the artist has to have room to breathe, but he's breathing your ideas to some extent. So for my question to Sam F, then, I would assume throughout the book, whilst just allowing artists to breathe and do what they need to do, there must be key elements that you must have must-haves. So like you've got it. So on this page, you must see this because down the line, this element, this one piece, is going to play a part somewhere down the line.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not kind of being, I think if you were to like read our script, it's a lot of like the page directives are just more so just kind of being like developing like a vibe for him to kind of feed off of, rather than like than just being ultra specific and being like, he's going downhill in this one thing. You can still see the trees, you can still see the sky in the one part, and the sky is coming through the middle. I think it's a little bit of like, just kind of like, I mean, it is like I guess like a director or something kind of being like, this is kind of like the sense of what is happening in this page, or this panel. And I think like Rodrigo is just like was super on board from the jump, and And I don't know. I mean, it's it's kind of hard to like even determine what happened. It is kind of like a whirlwind because it was like we would get pages back and I would look at them and be like, yeah, I mean that's like 100% what I had in my head. That's insane.
I'll say this too. There are times whenever we get something back and like it wouldn't be what we were thinking, but I would like it more. I'd be, this is better than what I had in mind. And like, it's not to say that we're like, we're like making it right the story. Like of course, like there are parts where these guys have to wear gas masks, but then it's like. These are the ones that we're kind of like seeing that existed around this period. How do you feel about drawing these? Do you think this is going to be a challenge for you? Like what? It's kind of like figuring out what will work, because it's like, as my biggest take on this is that as long as you enjoy what you're drawing, we're gonna get your best stuff. Like I want you to be as about this story as we are, and we both often, at the top of our scripts, everything that we write is like a note saying like, hey, everything that you see here is subject to change. If you see the like structure of this page a little something else, feel free to take it there. If even like to like a point, like if you have like a beat, like a story beat, they're like, hey, maybe like later down the line something like this would be cool to see. I'd like to like draw it. Throw it out there. Let's see. Like maybe we can make it work. So I can't say enough good things about Rodrigo. He's the man. Love him.
Yeah, and I think too, it's like a big part of it was having an open dialogue with him, and like, I mean, I've done a book where and it was great, and the artist was great, but there was not a lot of communication between the two of us, and it was like hard to know 100% if either of us were on the right page. Luckily, it was great. I think it worked out really, really well. But I think because Sam, we had like a group like chat going between the three of us, and I think it was, just kind of gauging where everyone was, and if he had questions, it was like Sam or I would just be like readily available, and vice versa. And I think it was, I think like having that level of, of a collaborative experience was really, really cool, and it helped it like a lot, I think.
I suppose it helps with, I'm going to say this, it sounds really dodgy, I'm really sorry about it. It helps to keep numbers down. If Rodrigo's is doing like pencils, inks, and colors, you're getting his vision without being watered down by somebody else's color ideas and the ink smashing up the lines and stuff. You're actually getting like, you guys are working as a unit, you two working as one unit to present the whole, and now he's working as a unit to prevent the other aspects by the lettering. So you kind of, you're getting the true vision of what he wants. It's not diluted in any shape, way, or form. It's pure what he sees from your words.
100% true. And like we've had some past experiences on like other books where we've had like a penciler and inker like not really love the colors that have come back, and it's kind of like, well, how do you navigate through that? How do you deal with all of that? With this, it's just it's exactly as you said. Like I can't say it any better. It's just, it was exactly what he saw in his mind, and that's what ended up on the page. And sometimes that's what that story calls for, and I think that's what we got here with him. He was just, man, he just knocked it out of the park. Everything. I'm pretty sure even like the like cover was kind of just like it was such like a spur of the moment thing where he kind of like sent us a message. It was like, what are you guys thinking for the cover? And we were like, I don't know. And Sam, I'm pretty sure, was kind of like, maybe it's like there's like a wolf or something, and like you can see some soldiers in their mouth. I don't know. And then he sent us what is the cover exactly, and we said, yeah, perfect. So
right, yes, perfect.
You did it, yeah.
What impresses me the most, and again, I've only seen a few sample pages. We've had a look there at a couple, and the colors, there's a lot of green. It's kind of like painted color scheme. The second one is quite dark gray blues, kind of merging in there to hint at something darker. And then you get to this page, and this is kind of like a complete turnabout. This is kind of like those old British comic books like Commando, for anyone who still remembers that. I don't know if you guys have seen this. It's like a pocket-sized book.
100%. 100%, yeah.
Like British library type style books. And that screams, this style on the screen now screams that to me. And just how flexible it really is to go from those like really dark, atmospheric, kind of doom-laden, doom-hinted at pages to then backtrack to something that's a little bit more breezy. I'm absolutely impressed.
He's a Swiss Army knife. He like anything you want, he can get. And like a lot of that was, like we had talked about prior, is kind of like how we wanted to establish like a vibe more than like really laying out what. And a lot of that is like part of that. It was kind of saying like, hey, when we get into these flashback or these like war pages that are inside of this journal, we want it to look a little bleaker and a little bit like, I'm pretty sure we even used pages of those early like Commando style books to kind of be like, this kind of thing is what we're looking for. Just something that's definitely more dreary, definitely more, because we wanted it to feel in like such a stark contrast to those first pages, which are so bright and vibrant and beautiful. And then and that's what life should be. And then you get to war and it's just like the most matte, dreary looking thing ever. So that's part of like our kind of the extent of like our artistic direction, I guess, is to kind of be like, this is what we think would be cool. Like, well, what do you think about this? And then Rodrigo just took it and ran with it. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. And I think Mad Cave have absolutely done a great idea to produce as a one-shot graphic, as opposed to like kind of compete month in, month out with everything else that goes on the rack there. Because the graphic novel market's a different beast than it is for the floppies, for sure.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember. It was like over a year ago, but I'm pretty sure that whenever we pitch it to Mad Cave, we kind of gave them. It could either be, a series, or it could be a single thing. I think we pitched it either way, and we kind of like broke down the beats at the bottom of the pitch either way. I think we were kind of preparing for it to be a series, and then whenever they were like, we can do it as a graphic novel, we were like, oh yeah, that makes like so much more sense. Works way better.
I think it's a very astute business choice, to be honest. From the cheap seats looking in, so many times I've seen indie books start off really well, and then by issue 3,
there's always a fall off. Yeah,
and then they've stopped producing the book, and then you have to buy it digitally, or you have to buy it as a trade. And I think to myself, I've just bought 3 issues of this thing. I'm not going to go out and buy a trade for $15 if I've already got 3 of the issues.
Right. So, it definitely creates this problem. And I will say it was when they brought it up, it was kind of this like, oh, obviously, like, let's definitely do that. But then it definitely did raise some challenges, I think, for at least me too, because up until this point, I'd never tackled anything like this. I mean, I've written series that are like about up to like five or 6 issues, and like it's not really the length, but I think my comfort zone is kind of writing to like a page 22, like a cliffhanger, like what's going to get you to buy the next one. And it's kind of you don't have to have that safety net where it's like, okay, this one's going to end, we can maybe have some time back. Like you can pull a bunch of stuff out at the end of one to start another. And it was kind of like, no, you're not doing like a serialized show anymore. Now you're doing a movie. How are you going to do that? And
there's no cheat pages, is there? There's no previously on.
Right,
that's a cheat page. You're like, yes. I got to write 21 new pages because the first one was last one. Yes, cool. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like you got to be like, once you hit play, the movie's running until the credits. So that was a thing for sure.
Yeah. I think there was also like difficulty, like whenever we were finishing up the script, especially like kind of towards the end, it felt like we were like editing and reworking like the same 4 pages over and over again. And then I was like, I don't even know like what's going on anymore. And then
The horrors of war.
yeah, I mean, we were in the trenches. But yeah, I mean, I think it was like, because this is the first thing I've done. I mean, this is the first graphic novel I've ever done, and I'm definitely used to like, you start off strong, something big happens at 11, and then something big happens at 22.
Yeah.
And
element, yeah, definitely.
yeah, and
Cool.
I think yeah, so this was like a whole other piece, but it was cool, and I think like it kind of felt like really big, and I think like reading it back, I was like, oh yeah, that's really cool. Like I feel
Yeah.
like it like works really well, I think.
Cool. It must be a massive sense of achievement when you've put all that hard work in, you know, and then you see the finished pages that come in. Now you've got the finished book. You must look at it and think, "Wow, I did this." That must make you feel so cool.
Yeah, I think it was like, I mean, like we were saying earlier, that like anytime we got a page from Rodrigo, we were all just like, "Is this like really good?" Like,
did we write this?
Really good book.
Yeah, it's
so,
definitely. I would say this for Sam too. It's definitely not lost on us either that like we've cut our teeth for a while in comics too. Like my first few years in comics was trying to push, you know, books at shows. Just like myself, I was self-publishing and things like that. And then like it's really cool to be making a book that you're really proud of and you really like, and then it's like, and this is going to be in stores. Like somebody can just walk into a store and see it and pick it up, and it's like that's thanks to Mad Cave. So it is a double kind of like sense of accomplishment, because you're like, I did it, and somebody might actually read it, and like all that hard work is going to be paid off hopefully by, you know, somebody checking it out and maybe even liking it, you know.
Maybe even liking it,
yeah.
Oh, self-deprecating to the last. All right, okay, so we're near the end of the show, so let's have your best, should we say 60-second pitch on why people should be heading over to Mad Cave?
Heading over to Mad Cave in general, or just for the book?
For the book.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say go over to Mad Cave because they're like the best.
Yeah. So why should people be checking out for your Hound? Yeah.
Less than 60 seconds is buy Hound because Rodrigo is the best, and he's like so good, and I think that there's, you know, he has a very, very distinct style, and he just I feel like he put a lot into this book, and I think the book says a lot and says a lot of things that Sam and I are both really proud of being able to kind of put out in the world, and having it being represented by Rodrigo is like incredible, you know.
Yeah, excellent, good shout. Sam R. What he said.
yeah, a lot of the exact same thing. It's something that I mean, it's the cliche answer. It's something that we're extremely proud of. It's about a year's worth of work and like waiting to get to this point, but it's something that, you know, whenever, like, not to, you know, bring up this point again, but whenever like a company kind of wants to back it and you know, pay for it to be made, you know, you really want to give it every piece of you that you can give it. And like, this is a book where I will say, like, a lot of the time I feel like most creative people can be like this, but like my worst critic is me, and like every time I put something out, like near the end of it, I'm like, this kind of sucks, or like I don't really like this part, or I would have done this better. And Hound is one that like I kind of look back on it and I'm like, I'm proud of it. Like I can put my stamp on it, I can hang my hat on it and be like, I think we, even if people don't like it, I love it. I'm extremely proud of it. And normally whenever that's the case, you know, that kind of hopefully shows through the writing and through the story itself. So
cool.
If you're into this kind of thing, I don't want people to think it's just like a war story. I know. Yeah, people I think sometimes can be like turned off, like, oh, it's like a war book. It's like it's a story that takes place during war. It's a horror book, but it's even like more than that. I think it's a pretty layered thing, and I think there's kind of there's a sentiment to it that I think can touch whoever reads it. So
cool.
Yeah.
Perfect. That was you took his extra seconds that he didn't use. Just saying.
There you go.
Play catch. It's just like writing the book, Bing, bang, boom.
Like hand off the button. All right, if you want to pre-order Hound, check over the Mad Cave Studios. The link is there on the bottom of the screen. Yes, I know it's a long link, but it's really simple. All you do is you type in Mad Cave Studios in Google, and the search bar takes you to Mad Cave. You then type in Hound, and Bob's your uncle, and you know who is your aunt. If you want to follow the Sams on social media, they're on Twitter. Yes, I called it Twitter. No, I'm not going to call it X. That's just bonkers. But they're there. Check them out. So get them liked, get them followed for all the up-to-date information. As said at the top of the show, this book is due out February 28th, 2024. So the back end. So you've got some time to save your Christmas pennies to get this book. There you go. Get it pre-ordered. It'll be in preview soon as well. I don't have the code for that yet, but I'm sure it will pop up when the next issue of previews runs round.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Excellent. Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for spending time and chatting about your book. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you for having us. This has been amazing.
Thanks so much, man.
You are both very gracious. Thank you so much. All right, that's it for another show. Don't forget to check out the UCPN for all your favorite shows. We saw the trailer for it earlier, K-Pop Cosmos. And if you like your books of a certain age, don't forget to check out the Ol'Timers comic book show, where the hosts aren't old, but the comics most certainly are. Next up for the Ol'Timers, I don't know what they've done to them for themselves, but they must be on a naughty list because they've got Ol'Timers Jeopardy coming up. Oh, it's going to be a bloodbath. All right. Gentlemen, thank you again so much. I really do appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
You're more than welcome. I have been your host, Johnny Machine Hughes. And as always, adios.
Visit undercovercapes.com for the latest and greatest podcasts via the Undercover Capes Podcast Network. Also visit our parent company website, comiccrusaders.com, all about comic pop culture.